Hey, Dr. Frenning, this is my advocacy project, and I chose to advocate about standard-based grading because I feel like this is the best practice that we should be using in classrooms. But what is standard-based grading? It is a best practice that we can use to help us in instruction, assessment, and academic reporting. Students should be graded based on understanding or mastering a skill or a concept at a grade level. And standard-based grading does this. Magusto and Gusty stated the purpose of grading is to describe how well students have achieved a learning objective or goals established from a course of study. The reasons why standard-based grading are so important is, as you can see, but I'm just going to cover out a couple of them, are gaps. We as educators, as much as we try to close gaps, we also create gaps by passing students along from grade level to grade level, and they haven't mastered those key skills that they need for the next grade. Also, if we start standard-based grading, it's going to give us a detailed running record of students' mastery and how we can better help them in that mastery process and help them gain those skills that they need. And it also increases student achievement. There's a lot of studies out there that say that standard-based grading has increased their proficiency levels on standardized tests. And I'll actually go over one later in this PowerPoint. But how we're going to implement it here at Hampshire is we're going to start creating a rubric. If you don't like the one that I already created, then we're going to talk about it and how we can adjust it and change it. But then we're going to select standards and objectives, and we're going to learn our learning targets around those standards and objectives. Next, we're going to formally assess and use the rubric to grade. Then we're going to provide students with feedback. And then the last thing is we're going to post a test to see if they master those standards. Ken O'Connor, he's called the grade god, and he is big on learning the learning target before you start teaching them. But he says that it needs to be consistent. It shouldn't matter which classroom you're in. Achievement should look the same across the line. So it doesn't matter, which class you're in. The grade should be consistent. So we're going to start digging deeper into learning those things. But first, here's our standard-based rubric, and as you can see, you can read those, and this is going to help us because it kind of aligns with the state standards. As you know, you have advanced, you have proficiency, basic, and below basic, and a lot of parents come to me and say, I don't understand why my kid was basic and they had an A all year. And sometimes that's hard to tell them. So our grades need to align with how they're going to be assessed at the end of the year. But that's our rubric, so that's how we're going to grade our students. But the next thing is learning our standards and learning our learning targets. So the first thing is our 10 ready blueprints. Those are our standards, of course. So that is what's going to be tested on the summative assessment. So that's what we need to be teaching. These other three are great websites that we can use to learn what mastery really looks like at that current grade level or at that current standard. We can pull the 10 ready practice sites and see what mastery is per standard. Also, QStar, that Who's Who creates this 10 ready test, they have a whole free, if you're an educator in Tennessee, you can go in and look at different questions that they make for the 10 ready sites. And obviously, PowerSchool, this is something that Murray County provided us. And as you know, it's standard-based, so we can look at what they say proficiency is as well. So these are definitely great tools that we can use to get the ball rolling on standard-based grading. The next thing is formative assessment. We need to formative assess our kids to see where they're at. Pulley and Hibachi explain teachers grade solely on proficiency levels for key standard within the grading period. So our grades need to be based on if they're getting our content or not. They can't be on, if they're organized or if they are participating in a class. They have to be based on standards and objectives. Yes, organization is a skill, and I think you should teach that, but that should not be a part of your grade. So we need to formative assess to see if our students are mastering and if we need to change instruction. The teacher feedback is very important, and this can be individualized, and you can write it on their assessment. You can have a conference. It helps because it gives you a wealth of information, and it helps the student and the teacher adjust to instruction. So Scuffy stated that standard-based grading gives a wealth of information to help students adjust to instruction. So for example, I can make groups better in my classroom. I can put the ability groups together. Okay, these people are one. I need to reteach them. These kids are they get the standards on. I'm going to, push them on, and they're going to do higher order thinking to help them in their real world concept. But better helps you as a teacher differentiate if we standard based grade. And then the post assessment, but Proxman, Spencer, May, and Westbury stated that standard based grading will provide students, parents, colleges, and employers with a clear picture of college and career readiness that has never been seen before, because it will create a running record. It will say, okay, Rachel McMahon knows how to do this, or yes, this person knows how to add and subtract decimals to the hundredth place. It's going to give us a clear thing. So when we go grade level to grade level, we can pass those on as if I'm looking at the big picture. And it can also help us communicate to our stakeholders. There has been so many times parents have came to me and they said, well, I don't really understand what they're doing in class. And as if they can see that standard-based report card and see that, they can know, okay, well, they need help in adding two-digit decimals or multiplying or, pulling evidence from the text. So that's something that we can help advocate for our stakeholders, and they can know, what the students really need. And also it's going to help us in RTI. There has been multiple times that I teach Tier 3 RTI and I get an 8th grader or a 7th grader who I have never taught, so I don't know where they're at. But if I look at their running the record, it will help me better prepare them and better grow them as a student, rather than, progress monitoring, backing up, seeing where they're at. So it will help us in that data as well. But some data is Polio and Habotkin. They actually did an experiment, and it was called Project Proficiency. So they had a control group and they had an experimental group, and 55% of the students that were in the experimental group scored in proficiency or above proficiency on their state standardized test when they used standard-based grading. The control group, only 28 students scored in proficiency ranges. That's a difference of 27 percentage points. Now, you're thinking 55%, that means more than half the students score between proficiency and above proficiency levels on the state assessment. So that is a big increase. The next thing is, this is what it could look like. So I always use the standards because, they're kid friendly, parents can read them, they can understand. So like, if you master this concept, so the first one, if you know how to do the volume and count it by cubic units, you would get, a 3, and you just fill it in that way. So you can see exactly where they need extra help, the students, and where they're struggling at. So that's just an example of a standard-based report card, or a running record, as you can say. But this would be one unit that those are all my standard, those are all my income statements. That's what they need to get at the end of the unit. And the next thing is why here? Because we have such small class sizes, why not? We only have 40 in a grade level, so it can help us. It's going to be easy for us to transition. Also, we can designate our PLCs just to this. We can designate our time in our PLCs on Wednesdays to go through the process and see how it goes. And the first year, I'm asking to implement it 3 through 5 because second and kindergarten already do this, but it's not based on like 10 ready standards. They get the N's and the E's. So if we just keep on going, those parents kind of get it already, and we can see how it goes. But it should increase proficiency on 10 ready, and then we can grow our students to the best of their ability, and we can make them become amazing people in life. But so I want you to read these quotes, and then I want you to think about standard-based grading and how it can help us. But these quotes mean to me is that when you take action, yeah, it's scary. We're going to change mindset, and it's okay. It's a fear that comes with it, but we have to make change in order to do better. So that's something that we need to think about. So that's why standard-based grading is important, and I think that it is a great practice that we need to start using at Hampshire Unit School. But here are my references. But then I also am uploading my rebuttal and everything in my paper and my reflection to Blackboard. But that is my advocacy project.